Jesus is you are the Son. Jesus He can save your soul from the pain. If in your life, nothing is better. Running to and fro, not knowing exactly what to do. I want to tell you about Jesus. He is the way. He can change your darkest midnight hour into a bright and sunshine day. He's in my Lord. And we give me alive. He's in my Lord. And we give me alive. And I'm here. And I say, yes, I love you. It's all I want to you and me.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's a wonderful, wonderful day. I am so thankful to God for everything that He's done, He's doing, He will do in our lives. He is so good. Happy Valentine's Day. I think it's Valentine's Day. Today is the 14th. Is that Valentine's Day? Okay, I think it is. It's terrible when you have to think about it, isn't it? God is so good to us. Thank you so much for joining. That was the Polk Sisters and Company. Jesus is calling. He's my comfort. If you want to get that song, just contact us, either one of us, and we will make sure we get that song to you. And I am going to do another website so that you can go directly on there, or you can contact me and I can send the song to you. What is it? Upload it to you because I have it, even though it's on like 30 something digital stations. You can play it 24/7, any day of the week, any day, morning, noon, night on there. but I'm not happy about the way my money is coming in. Okay, you understand that. So you can get it directly from me, and I'm going to do a website. But it's such a wonderful day. It's a snowy day, and to me, it's beautiful outside. Of course, every day is beautiful. Every day is beautiful. Every day is beautiful, but I like the snow. I like the rain. I like it all, and I'm thankful to God. And then I pray for those who have to be out in it. I do that. So people know to be careful. 99 point, I think 8 or 7% of the people know how to be careful out in there if you have to get out in there. So it's just a wonderful thing to be able to live to see another day. I'm so thankful. And I'm going to do my prayer. Dear God, as I sit or stand before you and speak, I pray to you that my soul you will keep. And if I should die before I finish, I pray to you that any outstanding sins will be forgiven. That is a prayer that God gave to me some weeks ago, and I try to always remember to do that prayer. Even in the midst, we don't know what's going to happen from 1 second, 1 millisecond to the next. And so it's always good to be prepared. Always good. You can reach me. You see the telephone number on the banner. You see the email address, I believe, on the banner to get in touch with me. And if you have my phone, my direct number, you can get in touch with me. You can uh, text me through these sites. So however you want to do it, get in touch with me, okay? Now, we're talking about the battleground. And I tell you, I'm reading this book, and I think I showed it to you once before, that None Should Perish by Silvoso. His last name is Silvoso. This book is my goodness. It is really, really good. So, as you see, my title on there is The Battleground. So, I'm going to do a series from this book talking about the battleground because we know that we're in a war. And Satan has waged war on the church. And there's so much in here that explains why he's waging it on the church uh, and why he's doing it and his strategies and everything. And if we don't know his strategies, we will not win this battle, okay? We will not win the war. I'll put it like that. Some battles will be lost. We will not win some of them if we don't depend on God and know what to look for. So the battleground is the heavenly places where the battleground is, okay? And it says, in order to take the gospel to every creature, the church is called to engage the forces of evil. The battleground is the heavenly places. This is where the battle for our cities is won or lost. So you know Satan is on his job. He's already lost. He's already lost. But he has the permission to try to fool any of us and get us all fooled up to go to hell with him and his imps, peons, or whatever you call them. So now here's an illustration I want you to look at, and then we know that it happens many times. We watch television, we watch war movies, we watch spy movies, and all kinds of things. Now I like them because they help my mind. I get my mind off of the everyday things that are going on. Or if there's something happening, and I I watch television. Yes, I do, and it settles my mind. Okay, and I watch what I watch. Okay, in my mind, I'm cautious of what I watch. Let me tell you this though, I haven't told anything in a while. I used to watch horror movies. I said I used to watch horror movies. So I was over my daughter's house and I spent the night. And so I'm telling you, that's why I watch what I watch. All right, on television. And so I have watched, I cannot remember the movie, but it was a horror movie. So I was in there, I had the television on, and I went to sleep with the television on. And then I started dreaming. And I started dreaming some horrible things about horror. And the next thing I know, I heard a pop. I dove on the hardwood floor off of my bed, trying to get away from the monster. So I don't watch horror movies anymore, okay? Just I'm telling you, I watch what I watch. All right, so now, so picture this for a moment, the best commando in the world. And when we see these, and some of you who have been in the military, you know the what is extensive, intensive training that you have that prepares you for whatever will come up, whether it's war, whether it's special assignments, whatever it is, you get extensive and intensive training. Okay. So there are people who are special. They have special forces. They have people who do special things that they cannot talk about, even when they're out of the military. There's some things that are so secretive that they cannot talk about. Can you imagine that weighing on their minds? But anyway, let me go. Picture for a moment the best commando. Now we're in a warfare, okay? We're in a war. We're in a spiritual war. Wickedness in high places, okay? The top experts have trained him in tactics, in strategy, martial arts, and survival. Now, he's been trained in all of this. Now, remember, this is the best commando in the world, classified as the best, okay? Get this, okay? Now, in his possession are some of the most sophisticated miniature electronic devices available. And we've watched James Bond, and, and that's I can think of James Bond because I mean he had everything he needed. I mean everything, all kinds of little things. I wish I had some of those little things that he had. You know, all kinds of things, everything that he needed for the job that he was doing. Okay, now the equipment he carries is state of the art. In his possession are some of the most sophisticated miniature electronic devices available. Nothing but the very best makes up his arsenal of weapons and equipment. We're talking about the best commando in the world, okay? We're talking about warfare. We're talking about the battleground, okay? Now, his mind has been enriched beyond measure by the assimilation of the most critical information needed to carry out his mission. So he's been drilled over and over. She, it could be a she also, over and over and over. They have to have it. They have to be precise with it. Everything has to be on point. There has to be time, perfect timing in order for this mission to be a success. All right? Now, he is the closest thing to a human supercomputer to ever walk the earth. Thousands of hours and millions of dollars have gone into making him the most effective fighter in the world. Okay? In the world. And we know women are being trained too. So when I say he, I mean he and she. All right? Now, watch him now on the last day in town in a third world country. Tomorrow, he will travel to the war zone, but today he is relaxed, enjoying a drink in a busy sidewalk cafe. It is hard not to be relaxed while sitting in the shade of lazily swaying palm trees, caressed by the balmy breeze blowing from the nearby ocean. Surrounded as he is by friendly faces, it is even harder for him to believe there is a war going on right now. Everything is enjoyable around him, and he is determined to relish every moment of it. And we know he's going. And have you ever been in a situation or you've been preparing for something and you said, okay, so I know tomorrow or in the next few hours I've got to face this. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just relax. I'm going to ease my mind. I'm going to settle because I know within the next few hours or the next day I'm going to be in an intense compli- complicated situation. Have you ever been like that? So just look at that like this. Traffic is heavy at this time of the day, and many vehicles crowd the street. A motorcycle peels off from the colorful caravan of cars whose ages span from early Model T Fords to the latest Cadillac. The driver of the motorcycle slows down as he draws near to the sidewalk cafe where the commando is enjoying himself. All of a sudden, a gun goes off and the commando goes down, a bullet through his head. My God, we're in a battle. We're in a war. This is the battleground, okay? A young guerrilla fighter, listen to this, dressed in rags and educated with little more than elementary level schooling, has disposed forever of the best human fighting machine in the world. Thousands of dollars and thousands of hours worth of training and millions of dollars worth of equipment lie wasted in a pool of blood caused by a 5-cent bullet. He is dead, not on account of what he knew, but get this, but what he did not know, or what he did not know. Okay? He's not dead because of what he knew, because so many dollars, millions of dollars, and hundreds of hours had been invested in him to train him to go and fulfill this mission. He knew all of that. He knew what he was supposed to do. He knew when he was supposed to do it. He knew how he was supposed to do it. So in order to get prepared, he wanted to relax just a little bit. He knew what was ahead of him to come, but he didn't know what was right there at him. My goodness. So it's not on account of what you do know, it's what you do not know. So what is the principal thing that I'm trying to say here? In active warfare, the most critical information is not what you know, but what you don't know. Okay? Especially if your enemy knows you don't know it. See? And there's a saying that I have. It's a dangerous thing when a person thinks they know, but they don't know, and they don't know that they don't know. That's a dangerous person, and it'll put you in a dangerous situation. Okay? So, especially if your enemy knows that you don't know. The corollary of this principle is that it is fatal to step into a war zone unawares. The worst mistake in war is to not know where the battleground is located. Now just think about it. He was on his way to the war zone the next day. But guess what? The battleground was where he was. And now he's lying dead in a pool of blood from a 5-cent bullet from a barely educated gorilla. Not gorilla, gorilla. Okay? All right. Now, in order to reach the cities for Christ, we're talking about reaching the cities for Christ, the church must engage and defeat the occupying army of demons under Satan's command who are blinding the lost to the world of the gospel. This means warfare, spiritual warfare. And then it gives us some scriptures, Revelations 12 and 11, paints a picture of how victory will be won. And they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their testimony. And they did not love their life even to death. Where's the battleground? Where the church must engage Satan and his demons. Now the next section we're going to is costly ignorance. You know, ignorance can cost us. Have you ever been in a situation where you could have caused, avoided many problems if you had just known the right steps to take? I think all of us have been in situations like that where we didn't know the right steps to take. So therefore, it caused other problems, even though we got them settled, but we could have, if we had known beforehand what we found out later on down the road while trying to figure it out, we wouldn't have had to go through the changes that we went through. And I know many of us, all of us, have experienced that. Costly ignorance. If we are planning to reach our city for Christ, and we know that our cities need to be reached for Christ, there are many people who attend worship, go to the house of God, they go to the sanctuary, but then their lives are not changed. They have not totally dedicated themselves. And sometimes it's because people really don't understand. They People say, you know, we've been taught all of our lives, you need to go to church, you need to go to church, you need to go to church. But how many were really explained the reason we need to go to church? And then we go to church on Sundays and we say, well, I went to church today and we feel good about it. But then we haven't gone through the phases and the steps that we need to in order to serve the true and the living God. We're going through the steps that we knew to go through. I'm going to church today. I'm going to Sunday school. I'm going to put in an offering of money, a monetary offering. I'm going to sing in the choir and I'm going to say amen to the preacher. And then I'm going to get happy. And then I'm going to enjoy the word of God. And then after the benediction, I'm going on back to whatever I do. It's because some people just don't know. I didn't know for years and years and years, but thank God, thank God, thank you, God. He saved me, gave me an understanding and a willing mind to learn to serve him. And believe it or not, as many years as I've been in here, I'm still learning to serve God, trying my best to serve him better and better, to please him more and more, day by day, minute by minute, second by second, millisecond by millisecond, okay? Costly ignorance. If we are planning to reach our city for Christ, we must know at all times where the battleground is. Often Christians become war casualties when they least expect it and in places where they sincerely believe they are out of danger. Go back to the commando. He was sitting in a cafe in the town, hadn't gone to the war. He's thinking the battleground in his mind is when he goes the next day to the war zone, but the battleground was right there where he was sitting, and that was his last day of life. Oh my goodness. This is why so many Christians have been seriously wounded in the safest of all places, such as in church, at home, or while fellowshipping with other believers. When we think we're in the safest place, that's where the deepest hurt comes. In many, 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 well, most of the time, because we think we're safe. We've let our guard down, and here it comes, drop, hit us, and we're hurt, hurt. Some people are hurt beyond repair, even though they're really not beyond repair, but because they have this hopelessness in their minds, and Satan is fooling and tricking them. There's no need. You see what they did to you. You might as well stay where you are. It's not doing you. You might as well stay where you are. And he puts this hatred and all this stuff in the minds. Some people have been so hurt and wounded till they have not recovered. And some have died and not recovered. And we don't want to be responsible for somebody's soul being sent to hell because of something that we have done. Okay, now, to them, the battleground was somewhere else, most likely on the mission field, thousands of miles away. Or they think perhaps the closest battleground would be in the so-called inner city, usually among the ethnic ghettos, where pimps, drug dealers, and gangs struggle for survival. They're thinking that that is where the battleground is. My goodness, talking about ignorance, okay? Awful places. Yes, they're thinking it's out there. Closer to home? Never. They never think it's closer to home. What a dangerous miscalculation. They think the battleground is way over yonder when it's right here in the face. Our real enemy is Satan. Our real enemy is Satan. We know that. We all have that, don't we? Okay. He uses the flesh and the world to seduce us. But he is the source of that seduction. Even though he uses the world, he uses our flesh to seduce us. He's the source of the seduction. And we can see that in Ephesians, the second chapter, the first through the third verses. So I'm just going to give you the scriptures. I'm not going to read them. Just give them to you unless they're in here to be read, okay? And so you can go and read that yourself. All right? He is the master of deception. He's the master of deception. We can see that in John, the 8th chapter, and the 44th verse. He's the inventor of special guerrilla warfare. We can see that in 2 Corinthians, the 2nd chapter, the 10th and the 11th verse. Lacking real authority to defeat us. Did you get that? Lacking real authority to defeat us. He has compensated by perfecting the art of subversion and trickery. You can see that in 2 Timothy, the 2nd chapter, the 25th and the 26th verses. He has more than made up for his limitations by developing deceptive schemes of all sorts. Any way he can get to us, he will do it. And he is, you hear that? He's a master of deception. And we can see the schemes, all sorts of schemes. We can look in Ephesians, the 6th chapter, and the 11th verse for that, to verify that. The success of those schemes always depends on one thing. The success of Satan's schemes always depends on how many? One thing. The ignorance of the saints, which he actively promotes. Now look in 2 Corinthians, the 11th, the second chapter, 11th verse, and then the 11th chapter and the third verse. Okay? Now, generally speaking, the church today is dangerously ignorant of the schemes of the devil. In fact, some people make it a point of pride not to know much about the devil and his devices. Can you imagine that? Some people make it a point of pride not to know about Satan and his devices. They haughtily declare that they will focus exclusively on Jesus and forget the devil. Man, you talk about no, no. That's a no, no point right there. But it happens, okay? In contrast, the Apostle Paul boldly stated, for we are not ignorant of his, talking about Satan's schemes, his wicked devices, okay? Second Corinthians, chapter, 11th verse. Paul, the man entrusted with the richest spiritual revelations concerning the Trinity and the redemptive work of Christ, also made it a point to know what Satan was up to. So he relayed it to us. Okay? Let's pay attention. Some people seem to have rewritten James, the 4th chapter and 7th verse to say, ignore the devil and he will flee from you. Instead of resist the devil and he will flee from you. And you know what? That makes you think about it, doesn't it? Resist him. Resist him. Don't ignore him. Resist him. That means put up a wall. Resist him. Make sure that he doesn't get through. The Holy Spirit doesn't let him get through. Don't ignore him. That's what he wants you to do. Okay? This thing is clever. It's clever. Okay? Now, how many minutes have I been on here? How much have I been on here? Let's see, 30 minutes, 32 minutes. Okay. I think I want to just do one more thing. The heavenlies here and now. Good morning, everybody. I'm so happy that you're here with me this morning. Talking about warfare. We're in battle. We're in a battle for our lives. In a war for our lives. Okay? And we have to know what battleground is. The battleground is in the heavens. Okay? Nowhere, we talk about the heavens here and now, and I'm going to read this section. And I'm reading from a book called That None Should Perish. And I've studied the book, but I said, hey, I can just read the rest from the book because I do give props to the writer his name is Silvoso. His last name is Silvoso. This is a really, really, really good book. And so why do I need to try to rewrite something when I can read what he's already written, okay? From experience. Well, there's some deep things in this book. There's some deep things in this book. Okay? The heavenlies here and now. Nowhere is this ignorance more damaging than in the reality and the location of a spiritual battleground, the heavenly places, or as the Greek literally says, in the heavenlies. And we can see that in Ephesians, the 3rd chapter and the 10th verse. The average church member in the Western world has no idea what this expression really means. So the average person in the Western world, that's us, have no idea of what this really means. It is used 5 times by the Apostle Paul in his epistle to the Ephesians. Therefore, it must be an important foundational component of God's revelation concerning spiritual warfare. Yet somehow we seem to have no clue what it really means because of our ignorance on this important point. We are vulnerable to the enemy's deceptive schemes against us. The devil knows this and uses it to neutralize and, in many cases, eliminate our effectiveness in Christ in spite of everything else we may know about Christ. He has schemes, devices, he makes things up. He has to improvise. Because if you know what I read over, he does not have the authority to defeat us, but he does have schemes. He's a deceptive devil. And so whatever he can think of, whatever he's allowed to use, whatever little freedom he has, I mean, he's taking advantage of it to the fullest, okay? The devil knows this and he uses it to neutralize, in some cases, eliminate our effectiveness in Christ, in spite of everything else we may know about Christ. I know I repeated that, okay? What are the heavenlies? When believers in Ephesus read or heard the term the heavenlies in Paul's epistle, they evidently understood what the apostle meant. There was no need for them to pause to do a word study, nor to engage the services of a local scholar at the nearby synagogue to decipher the meaning of this expression. The passage of time, along with the dramatic, cultural, and religious differences between us and the world of Paul and his contemporaries, have conspired to cloud our understanding of the subject. To put into perspective, the difficulty of the average Christian in the Western world has in grasping this concept. Imagine that you have lived in Mexico City all your life. You are familiar with smog and everything associated with it, such as itchy eyes, irritated nose, and smog alerts. Now, picture yourself in the village of Thule, Thule, in the northernmost part of Greenland, above the Arctic Circle, trying to explain to a native what smog is all about. How would you do it? There is nothing in that remote, unpopulated part of the world capable of providing a suitable frame of reference to understand it. Nor is there anything in the mind of the native that may enable him to relate to this new concept. You show him a picture of downtown Mexico City on a bad day with a brownish cloud all over the city, and you say to him, this is what smog looks like. Okay, you're trying to get him to get in his mind, this is what smog looks like. I'm talking to you, I want you to see what it looks like. To this he may reply, how long does it stay there? 1 minute? 5 minutes? No, it stays there forever, you say. Now he is perplexed as he compares the brownish cloud with the pristine air all around him, and he asks, how long do people breathe it? They could do it for more than a few minutes, right? When you tell him that people breathe it day and night, 24 hours a day, he cannot believe it. He has no clue of how this happens. How can they breathe in all of that brown stuff 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? all the time. So we all understand that it is nearly impossible to explain something new to someone who has no frame of reference in which to fit the new concept. This is what usually happens to us in the Western world with the notion of the heavenlies. For example, the average Westerner has serious difficulty accepting the fact that demons and angels are active and present in our world. Do you know that? You know that they're active and present in this world. And I'm going to repeat something. And the reason I strive so to start when I say I'm going to come on at 7 a.m., I do everything within my power. And then, depending on God, I do everything to start on time. As a matter of fact, I started earlier today because I wanted you to hear the song by the Polk Sisters and Company. And so I started early. So I'm learning to maneuver through this StreamYard and Facebook and all that. I'm learning. I'm doing it. Hey, I'm proud of myself. Okay. So I've said this before. When Elder Coffee, he would tell us, when you set a time, then you make sure that you honor that time, because God dispatches angels to meet you there at that time. Don't disappoint the angels. I know I said that before, but this is true. So angels and the demons really do exist. And we see signs of it all the time. I know I do. I see signs of it all the time. It is even harder to believe that any interaction can take place between the natural and the supernatural realms. Even though he admits he doesn't fully understand what Jesus meant when he said, "Whatever you shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven," Matthew, the 18th chapter and the 18th verse, he has already concluded that it cannot mean what the text literally says. For Christians in the West, Paul's teaching that we, the church, are seated with Christ in the heavenly places, Ephesians, the 2nd chapter and the 6th verse, and that the manifold wisdom of God might now be made known through the church to the rulers and authorities in the heavenly places, Ephesians 3, verse 10. It's closer to a figure of speech or to a poetic style than to plain gospel truth. And I'm almost finished. I want to finish this, okay? However, when Christians in Ephesus read in Paul's epistle the term "in the heavenlies," they knew it referred to the spiritual realm where angels, demons, and even we, the church, operate. When they heard the admonition that our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, they knew it was a direct reference to spiritual powers that existed and operated in the same sphere, SPHERE, in which the church did. Everything is operating right in the same space, okay? Now, otherwise, the command to stand firm against those forces of wickedness in the heavenlies would have been meaningless. The heavenlies is a concept totally familiar to the early church, because that is where the warfare takes place. And we can see that in Ephesians, the 6th chapter and the 12th verse. We had better become thoroughly acquainted with it ourselves. Okay? Be thoroughly acquainted with it. We need it. We need it. That's why sometimes the battle is lost. The battle is lost. We're not going to lose the war. Okay? We're going to gird up ourselves and we're going to get back at it. If we lose one battle, we're coming back and we're going to win the next. We're going to win this war. Okay? Otherwise, everything we know may become invalidated because of what we don't know regarding this cosmic battleground on which we are expected to face and defeat the master of deception, Satan. And look in Revelation, the 12th chapter and the 11th verse. He's the master of deception. So we have to realize what we're up against. We have to not be ignorant. We have to be aware. We have to know what his devices are, how he's fighting us, in order to be able to know how to win the battles and the war. We must know. It is understandable why the Western Christians have difficulty with the expression in the heavenlies. When we think of heaven, we either think of a faraway realm where God sits enthroned, or we think of the believer's future eternal home with God in heaven. This is exactly, listen, this is exactly the opposite picture from what the Apostle Paul is teaching in Ephesus or in Ephesians. Though the literal translation of these words is indeed in the heavenlies, the best functional translation would probably be in the spirit realm. Okay? Now, you get it? Commentators have wrestled for centuries to more fully understand Paul's view of the heavens. And the writer is saying, I do not profess to be a biblical scholar. I am a Christian practitioner. Now, doesn't that sound good? A Christian practitioner. I do not profess to be a Bible scholar. I am a Christian practitioner. Thus, he said, I humbly offer an explanation that I believe is biblical and has also been confirmed by years of experience with the spirit world. And I'm going to stop right there. But the next, oh my goodness, God makes his coming. I'm going to go on because I really want to get into the heavenly, on deeper into the heavenlies, and I want to, oh man, oh, and in my studying last night, and I would wake up and I would read some more, and I would go back to sleep, and I would wake up and I would read some more, talking about a roadmap to the heavenly. Ephesians is a roadmap to the heavenly. So next week, I'm going to go to the darkness of enlightenment, and as the weeks go on, I want to get really deep into it and let you know that this, I really like you, okay? I love you I love you. Thank you so much for being with me today. We're in a war. We're in a war. Satan is doing whatever he can to get us off track and keep us off track. He's the master of deception. He knows what he's doing. But remember, he doesn't have the authority to defeat us. Okay? So what he does, he tries to trick us. And so many people have been tricked. But I'm not going to go back into that. I think I've said everything that I need to say today. I said, Happy Valentine's Day to you. I love you so much. Let me hear from you. And I told you I'm going to go ahead and do another website so that you can go directly there, get my writings and my music and all of that. But you can even contact me and I can get to you also. So feel free to contact me. My telephone number's on there. Email address for the church is on there. So call me sometime. I'll be happy to talk with you. And also remember, I'm a certified counselor. If you need any counseling, you need someone to listen to you. Sometimes you just have to talk. And one thing our people have to realize is that you can trust somebody. I know we've all been deceived by the people who said you can trust me, and then you tell them, and then they go and tell somebody else, and somebody else will tell somebody else. It's not like that here, okay? So if you need to vent, you need to get some things off of your mind, if you need to share some things, you can call me, email me, message me, and we'll get together, okay? I love you. Enjoy your day. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. Happy Valentine's